when black folks took pride in having good families and treating each other well and having businesses and things like that. And then somehow there's a culture that kind of grabbed onto us that sort of started celebrating things that maybe shouldn't be celebrated. Did anybody else feel that way? That maybe we've forgotten what it means to be a proud people. And I think Marcus Garvey's great for the next step in the book club because Garvey did not play that. He literally he I think he should be like a self-esteem coach for the black community because he would literally say get up, you mighty race. Stop being bums. Stop making them think that you're losers and that you're weak. You are supposed to be great. You're supposed to be extraordinary and that's the vibe we're going to be on for a while. We're going to read his book. It's called Message to the People: The Course of African Philosophy. And literally, I read a little bit of the book, and literally from day zero, he started jumping in and literally just took off. And so ultimately, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this book. And in case you didn't know, being a member of the book club costs you nothing. We've been doing this for years, and you don't have to pay money, you just got to pay attention. And also, if you bring your family, then that's even better. And also, in case you don't know, the Black Business School is free. We have a lot of free stuff in the Black Business School that you can do. So don't ever think that you can only be a part of the Black Business School if you're spending money. Sure, we got to raise money because we're running a business. But and really, some people think that black people shouldn't be allowed to run schools. But I have a PhD, and it's just as I'm just as qualified as the white university you gave $100,000 to that gave you that degree that makes you only $50,000 a year. I'm just as qualified as him. And so what I try to say to people is I say, let's negotiate, right? We got to raise money to build an institution, but also I understand money's tight. And so two agreements we make in the Black Business Schools. Number one, we'll give you more for free than you received for $100,000 at whatever university you attended. That's a guarantee. We pull that off. Number two, if we do get into a situation where we say, hey, we're trying to raise money, we're trying to have an institution, if you will give us just a fraction, don't give us, you ain't got to give us as much money as you give white folks, because we know you love white folks a lot and you want to give them all your money, but just give us like 2% of that, and we'll do more with that 2% than they did with the 150%. Does that sound like a deal? Does that sound fair? I hope that's fair because I want to be transparent that we have to raise money. Money is expensive. The All Black National Convention is going to cost us almost $300,000. But we wanted to do this independently. We want a strong black institution that can do things independently. And we didn't want to bring Black Liberation brought to you by McDonald's. You can't talk about liberation. Um, you can't talk about liberation and expect other people to fund your liberation. And I think that's something that a lot of us don't understand. The idea that we raise millions of our children to work for white folks is one of our biggest challenges. And also, one of the things that makes it difficult at times to build black institutions is that when you do that and you say, hey, we have products or we have services that we want to offer, first thing people do is they'll say, oh, you're being a grifter and if you cared about black people, you would do everything for free. And so I always respond and I say, but well, you work at UPS. Do you go to work for free? Do you go to UPS for free? When you spend money at all kinds of businesses, do they show up for you the way we've shown up for you? Do they have your community's best interests at heart the way we do? Right. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to start on just so we understand this because one of the things Garvey was able to do, and I'm going to read from his book, is he was able to do something that was really important in his time, which was to raise capital. One of the biggest challenges, one of the number one reason for black enslavement is that we are not that good at raising capital for the things that we want to do. And one of the things that you have to understand is that in a capitalist society, capital controls everything. Give me a yes if you understand that. Let me know if you understand that. That freedom ain't free, and capital runs the capitalist society, and those who control capital control everything. Slaves were a form of capital. If you do not control capital, then you will become capital for somebody else. If you are an employee for life for a corporation, you are someone else's capital. If you are paying rent to a landlord for your life, then you are someone else's capital. You're giving them capital. If you are a consumer, they always have you run around here bragging about black spending power. That's nothing to brag about because what you're saying is I want to be somebody's capital. And so the reason I love Garvey and admire Again, I don't know. I don't know the man. I know his granddaughter, actually, his great grandniece is a member of our B1 community. I'm not going to embarrass her. She might even be here tonight, but I'm really proud to know her because she's a super smart lady. I like this guy and his message because he had a message that needs to be heard. It wasn't one of these like let's all integrate and let's wait for white folks to do this for us and let's go serve them to the best of our ability and hope that they decide to be nice to us. That does not work. It doesn't work. And so really, Garvey, if you want my Parthenon of great black leaders and those that whose message really worked in terms of power, it would be Garvey, it would be Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. Booker T went down to Tuskegee and built this institution. Our child is right now at that institution getting an extraordinary education. She made a 3.9 grade point average this semester, her first semester in college. We're really proud of her. She's down at that institution right now because this man built something over 100 years ago. He wasn't just some Negro trying to get on TV. He wasn't some leader in the Democratic Party, right? He wasn't some rapper running around dancing like Diddy, right? He was a man that sat down and put down his bucket and picked out his shovel and got it done. He chopped some wood to go build something. And now we got hundreds of thousands of young black kids that are able to go out and become doctors, lawyers, engineers, and everything else. He built an institution, right? So if you ever want to know what drives Boyce Watkins, who is this dude? Why is he running his mouth so much? It's because I want to build an institution. That's what the Black Business School is. It's an institution, and I don't want it. I don't want to. I don't care about being famous. I'm not trying to be famous. I only want to be famous to the extent that it helps us to achieve the goal. I want it to survive. I want it to be around in 300 years. I want to do what Booker T did. I don't know if I have the ability to do it. But I know I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So this is what we stand for. So when I listen to the Garveys of the world and the Dr. Claude Andersons and stuff like he sends his best, by the way. I just talked to him the other day. That's the kind of stuff that gets me going. I just had a conversation with my father. My father's an older man now. He's in his 70s, and he was a cop for a long time. And one of the things he said when we were just talking was he said, people don't understand nothing but power. He said, you're up here talking about right and wrong and good and bad and who shoulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and what they didn't do us right and they doing us dirty. He said, people respect power. That's it. If you ain't got no power, then in America, you ain't nothing. So Marcus Garvey is a man who understood two words. Two words that come to mind when I think about Garvey is power and pride. Power and pride. He said, you are great. You are extraordinary. You can do this. Stop trying to run up behind somebody else. Stop trying to play second fiddle. Stop trying to get people to be your friend. You should have pride. Be your own damn friend. He also understood power. He understood economic power, institutional power. So without further ado, I'm gonna begin reading Garvey's book, and I just wanted to make sure we set the tone as we set it off. All right. So we've read four of Dr. Claude Anderson's books. Now we're gonna go to another legend, Marcus Garvey. And actually, just so sometimes when I get real serious, I scare people. I scare the baby. So like just to lighten the mood a little bit, I did it. Y'all know I think AI is the coolest thing in the world. So I did an AI video. Some of you should be able to see it. Some of you can't. But I did this AI video to just kind of set the tone for what we're doing in class. And let me see if I can. It has music connected to it, so I'm gonna try to share my screen. And it's kind of funny and serious at the same time. And by the way, as I pull this up, Chanel is in the chat, and Chanel's going to share the link. If you want to do stock options with us, the coin program starts January 8th. So if you want to learn stock options, you can click on the link that Chanel shares in the chat. So here I am. This is my Instagram. It's Dr. Boyce Finance. So I'm just going to play this video. It'll take like 1 second or 1 minute actually, and then we'll get to reading the book. Here it is.
Sometimes it seems we'll touch that dream, but things come slow and not at all. They come slow, and the ones on time won't make it stop. So convinced that they might fall. Let's love ourselves and we can't fail to make a better situation. Tomorrow, I see tell you that everything is everything. Everything is everything. Everything.
Cool, right? With AI, apparently you can do everything. I showed that to my wife's mother. She freaked out. She's in her 80s, so she really thinks I'm taking selfies with Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X. So how did you do that? So y'all were y'all able to see the video? Let me know if you were able to see it. Joyce said she couldn't see it. I'm sorry, Joyce. If you can't see the video, if you did not see it, just go to my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And on my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, you'll be able to find it there. And make a comment. Come in and tell me what you think. Or maybe you can give me suggestions. If you want to see another video that you'd like for me to make, like put something in the comments. I'll read the comment and maybe we can try something different every time. All right. So anyway, let's get to reading. This book is called Message to the People by Marcus Garvey. I'm sure it's available on Amazon, stuff like that. And I ordered some copies that we're gonna put just have around, and maybe I could set up a link and you pay the shipping. I'll send you one of my copies and give you a little personal note or something like that. All right, so here's what this is called Lesson One: Intelligence, Education, Universal Knowledge, How to Get It. He says you must never stop learning. The world's greatest men and women were people who educated themselves outside of the university with all the knowledge that the university gives, and you have the opportunity of doing the same thing that the university does: read and study. One must never stop reading. Read everything that you can read that is a standard of knowledge. Don't waste time reading trashy literature. This is to say, don't pay any attention to the 10-cent novels, Wild West stories, and cheap sentimental books. But where there is a good plot where there is a good plot and a good story in the form of a novel, read it. It is necessary to read it for the purpose of getting information on human nature. The idea is that personal experience is not enough for a human to get all the useful knowledge of life because the individual life is too short. So we must feed on the experiences of others. So he's saying, learn from others, right? A wise man learns from his mistakes. A wiser man learns from the mistakes of others. Also, when he talks about trashy literature and stuff that's a waste of your time, I'm sure he would be very unhappy to see some of the crap that a lot of our young people spend time on Instagram. He would probably just vomit if you made that poor man watch Instagram for 30 seconds. He'd probably go crazy. Moving on. The literature we must read should include the biography and autobiography of men and women who have accomplished greatness in their particular line. So you learn greatness, you study it, you emulate that. Whenever you can buy these books and own them, and whilst you are reading them, make pencil and pen notes of the striking sentences and paragraphs that you like to remember so that when you have to refer to the book for any thought that you would like to refresh your mind on, you will not have to read over the whole book. Um, I met a white kid who was a 24-year-old multimillionaire, and he was a millionaire by the time he was 17 years old. The best thing his parents ever did was they took him out of public school and they educated him at home. And they did something that sounded absolutely crazy at the time. They told him, you don't have to study any particular topic. You study whatever you want, but we just need two things from you. They said once a week, we need you to write a short paper, 2 pages on somebody that you admire. So you got to find someone that you admire, look up their history, and then after you look up that history, you've got to go and write a paper about that person. And so that's what they asked his parents to do: is find something that inspires you and study whatever you want. So he did something really crazy. His parents got real worried because he started studying Harry Potter. He read all the Harry Potter books. Well, what he did was he then took what he learned from the Harry Potter books and started a Harry Potter website. And the Harry Potter website ended up becoming the number 2 Harry Potter website on the planet. So by the time he was 16 years old, he had $10 million in the bank, and by the time I met him, he was about 24. He was on to another venture. And I asked him, I said, "Did you go to college?" He said, "Yeah, I went to Notre Dame for a semester. It got boring, and I went on and now I'm doing something else." All right, moving on. He says, let's see here. You should also read the best poetry for inspiration. The standard poets have always been the most inspirational creators. From a good line of poetry, you may get the inspiration for the career of a lifetime. Many a great man and woman was first inspired by some attractive line or verse of poetry. There are good poets and bad poets, just like there are good novels and bad novels. Always select the best poets for your inspirational urge. Read history incessantly until you master it. History. You can learn a lot from history. Ooh, buddy, especially the history of war. I learned a lot from watching. I love war documentaries, and I love watching documentaries about war because they show you how terrible the world can be. It shows you that don't nobody care about you. It shows you that if you are weak, then your enemy will use that as an opportunity to destroy you. And so, as much as it feels bad, and as much as you might want to whine and cry about how bad things are, you better get your stuff together and do your best. That's what I learned from watching documentaries about war. The war has no mercy. It has no. They'll wipe out your whole community, your whole family, and think nothing of it. And so I think that these are lessons that are important to learn because I think sometimes we get trained to feel sorry for ourselves, and we think that if we whine and cry long enough about what people are doing to us, that somehow they're going to somehow magically care. They're not going to care. They're just not going to care. All right. So anyway, so read history incessantly until you master it. This means your own national history, the history of the world, social history, industrial history, and the history of the different sciences, but primarily the history of man. If you do not know what went on before you came here and what is happening at the time you live, but away from you, you will not know the world and will be ignorant of the world and mankind. You can only make the best out of life by knowing and understanding it. To know, you must fall back on the intelligence of others who came before you, that maybe your elders, right? We don't listen to our elders the way we should. I told you that the solutions for black people, a lot of the solutions for black people are with your secret weapon. Your secret weapon is your grandma. Your grandma understood what it was like before integration and affirmative action and all and DEI and all that. Your grandfather, he probably, maybe he worked with his hands or he figured out a way to make a way even when times were tough. He didn't have anybody feel sorry for him. He know what it meant. It was okay for him to man up. It was hard, but he figured it out. And also they understood family. They understood the value of family. We've forgotten that as well. They also understood the value of wealth. We traded in our land and our businesses for student loans and corporate jobs. So if you go back to the 1940s, I think that there are black people in the 1940s who in the 1950s who have ideas and wisdom that we should probably learn from. All right, so moving on. Let's see here. To be able to read intelligently, you must first be able to master the language of your country. To do this, you must be well acquainted with grammar and the science of it. Every 6 months, you should read over again the science of the language that you speak so as not to forget its rules. People judge you by writing and your speech. If you write badly and incorrectly, they will become prejudiced toward your intelligence. And if you speak badly and incorrectly, those who hear you become disgusted and will not pay attention to you, but in their hearts they will laugh after you. Let's see here. A leader who is to teach men and present any fact of truth to a man must first be learned in his subject. Never write or speak on a subject you know nothing about. Wouldn't that be a funny rule to apply on the internet? We got a whole lot of people out here talking about stuff they don't know nothing about. For there is always somebody who knows that particular subject to laugh at you or to ask you an embarrassing question that may make others laugh at you. You can know about any subject under the sun by reading about it. But if you cannot buy the books outright and own them, go to your public circulating library in your district or town as to get the use of those books. You should do that as you may refer to them for information. You should read at least 4 hours a day. Look at that. How many of y'all think the average young black person reads for 4 hours a day? Or just takes in knowledge for 4 hours a day? Maybe if you're not even reading, maybe you're watching instructional videos, learning something. Or like how many times do you see people, maybe if they use YouTube? YouTube is a beautiful university. Do you think most young people are using YouTube primarily for learning or they're using it for entertainment? Learning sharpens the mind. Entertainment dulls the mind. Entertainment is like a drug. You become like a junkie. And the entertainment, it's constantly injecting the dopamine in your brain that's making you feel good, right? Because you're following and scrolling along and checking out things that make you feel a certain way, make things that make you laugh, things that they sell lust to the men. The men will just follow the lust on the internet, and that dulls your ability to accomplish anything, right? So, but if you use the internet for learning, it's the best university in the history of the world. So he says you should read 4 hours a day. The best time to read is in the evening after you have retired from your work and after you have rested before sleeping hours, but do so before morning so that during your sleeping hours, what you have read may become subconscious. That is to say, planted in your memory. The subconscious is very powerful. Very powerful. In fact, I think that the mass manipulation of Black people occurs through managing your subconscious mind, symbolism. Never go to bed without doing some reading. Never keep the constant company of anybody who doesn't know as much as you or as educated as you. So maybe he's saying like don't kick it with your stupid friends, and from whom you cannot learn something or reciprocate your learning, especially if that person is illiterate or ignorant, because constant association with such a person will unconsciously cause you to drift into the peculiar culture or ignorance of that person. So who you hang out with is going to affect who you are. Always try to associate with people from whom you can learn something. Contact with cultured persons and with books is the best companionship you can have and keep. By reading good books, you keep the company of the authors of the books or the subjects of the book when otherwise you could not meet them in the social contact of life. Never go down in intelligence. Intelligent Black people. How many times y'all heard me? Anybody heard me talk about intelligent Black people? That this is I do you and do y'all know? How many of y'all have heard me talk about this? And for new people, you should know this. I said this is for intelligent Black people. And you know what's really hilarious is I've had a few people call me, call me elitist because I said this is for intelligent Black people. And I never said it was for Black people who went to college. I never said it's for Black people who make above a certain income level. I never said it's for people that already know everything. It's for people who want to know more. It's for people who want to be intelligent. If you don't value intelligence, then why are you even here? So I pushed back on that when I got that critique. I said, no, that's stupid. Why would you want me to be ignorant? If I said this, that we want to be ignorant, then you wouldn't have a problem with that. That's silly to me. So he says, never go down in intelligence to those who are below you, but if possible, help to lift them up to you. And always try to ascend to those who are above you and be their equal with the hope of being their master. Oof. Continue always in the application of the things you desire educationally, culturally, or otherwise, and never give up until you reach the objective, and you can reach the objective if others have done so before you, proving by their doing it that it is possible. In your desire to accomplish greatness, you must first decide in your own mind in what direction you desire to seek that greatness. And when you have so decided in your mind, work unceasingly toward it. So make the decision, work toward it. The particular thing that you may want should be before you all the time, and whatsoever it takes to get it or make it possible should be undertaken. That means do whatever you can by any means necessary. Get rich or die trying. Unless your faculties and persuasion to achieve all you set your mind on, or sorry, use your faculties and persuasion to achieve all that you set your mind on. Try never to repeat yourself in any one discourse and saying the same thing over and over again, except you are making new points, because repetition is tiresome and it annoys those who hear the repetition. Therefore, try to possess as much universal knowledge as possible through reading so as to be able to be free of repetition in trying to drive home a point. No one is ever too old to learn. How about that? No one's ever too old to learn. Therefore, you should take advantage of every educational facility. If you should hear of a great man or woman who is to lecture or speak in your town on any given subject, and the person is an authority on the subject, always make time to go and hear him. This is what is meant by learning from others. You should learn from two sides, that there are two sides to every story, so as to be able to properly debate a person and hold your ground with the side that you support. That's good, right? This is something that's being lost. Um, that's the thing. That is what is lost now in this whole this whole Democrat Republican nonsense. I can't tell you how many people I know who are Democrats who won't even hear the perspective of a Republican, or how many Republicans won't hear the perspective of a Democrat. I think that's incredibly ignorant. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but I think it's ignorant. There's nothing that's going to harm you by trying to understand and respect the humanity of the person who disagrees with you and letting them share their perspective. And maybe you can learn from it. You ain't got to agree with it, but if you understand it, then you can defend your point even better. Right? You cannot defend your point by saying, F you, I ain't listening to you, you stupid, blah, 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 blah. That's not going to get you anywhere. That makes you look stupid. That makes you look defensive, like you can't defend your point of view because all you did was you shut up the opposition. Right? So that's not intelligent to do that. And I like the fact that he's telling you about understanding all perspectives on the topic. All right, so let's see here. In your desire to accomplish, let me see here. Oh, here we go. You're never too old to learn, therefore, you should take advantage of every educational facility. If you hear of a great man or woman who is a lecturer or speak in your town on any subject, always make time to go hear him. Let's see here. Um, You should learn the two sides of every story so as to be able to properly debate a question and hold your ground with that side that you support. If you only know one side of a story, you cannot argue intelligently nor effectively. As for instance, to combat communism, you must understand it. Profound. Otherwise, people will take advantage of you and win a victory over your ignorance. Anything that you are going to challenge, you must first know about it so as you are able to defeat it. The moment you are ignorant about anything, the person who has the the moment you're ignorant about anything, the person who has the intelligence of that thing will defeat you. Therefore, get knowledge, get it quickly, get it studiously, but get it anyway. Knowledge is power. When you know a thing and can hold your ground on that thing and win over your opponents on that thing, those who hear you learn to have confidence in you and will trust your ability. Never, therefore, attempt anything without being able to protect yourself on it. For every time you are defeated, it takes away from your prestige and you are not as respected as before. All the knowledge you want is in the world, and all that you have to do is to go seeking it and never stop until you've found it. You can find knowledge or the information about it in the public libraries if it is not on your own bookshelf. Try to have a book and own it on every bit of knowledge you want. You may generally get these books at secondhand bookstores for sometimes one-fifth of the original value. Always have a well-equipped shelf of books. Nearly all information about mankind is to be found in the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is an expensive set of books, but try to get them. Now, imagine, think about this. This man's sharing this message with black people over 100 years ago. This is what your ancestors were listening to. This is what they were picking up what he was putting down. Buy a complete edition for yourself and keep it at your home. And whenever you are in doubt about anything, go to it and you will find it there. The value of knowledge is to use it. It is not humanly possible that a person can retain all the knowledge of the world, but if a person knows how to search for all the knowledge of the world, he will find it and when he wants it. A doctor or lawyer, although he passed his examination in college, does not know all the laws and does not know all the techniques of medicine, but he has fundamental knowledge. When he wants a particular kind of knowledge, he goes to the medical books or law books and refers to the particular law or how to use the recipe of medicine. You must therefore know where to find your facts and use them as you want them. No one will know where you get them, but you will have the facts, and by using the facts correctly, they will think you are a wonderful person, a great genius, and a trusted leader. In reading, it is not necessary or compulsory that you agree with everything you read. You must always use or apply your own reasoning to what you have read based upon what you already know as touching the facts on what you have read. Pass judgment on what you read based upon the facts. When I say facts, I mean things that cannot be disputed. You may read thoughts that are old and opinions that are old and have changed since they were written. You must always search to find out the latest facts on the particular subject, and only when these facts are consistently maintained in what you read should you agree with them. Otherwise, you are entitled to your own opinion. Always have up-to-date knowledge. You can gather this from the latest books and the latest periodicals, journals, and newspapers. Read your daily newspaper every day. Read a standard monthly journal every month, a standard weekly magazine every week, a standard quarterly magazine every quarter, and by this you will find the new knowledge of the whole year in addition to the books you read whose facts have not altered in that year. Don't keep old ideas, bury them as new ones come. Okay, so what this makes me think about is I'm trying to figure out what happened to black people. Not all black people. What happened to some of our people? Like, well, where is it that we can have a message like this over 100 years ago that tells us to value books and knowledge and reading? And there's some people out here where you can't get them to pick up a book nearly as fast as you can get them to pick up a beer or, you know, or even get them to want to engage in any sort of learning, right? I really find that really fascinating that we know knowledge is power, and what will happen a lot of times is when we don't have the knowledge that we're looking for, we will assume that it's because white people are mysteriously hiding all the knowledge from us. And sometimes they're not hiding it. Sometimes they just know that if they put it in a book, we ain't gonna go get it, right? And I think that some of this starts actually in childhood when you were a kid and maybe you wanted to do well in school and maybe you felt like being good in school wasn't going to it was going to cause you to lose favor with a lot of your friends, right? Um, that time where you had you have people that would say that you're acting white. When I remember when I was getting my PhD and as I was getting my doctorate, I was learning things, right? And as I was learning things, I was changing, I was evolving, I was thinking things through more critically, I was speaking differently, and I still remember having people that I knew back in the day who said, "Oh, he over thinking he's white." And I just remember being very confused by that because I said, "What is it about being white that means if I'm smart, I gotta be white now?" Like, are you saying that if I want to be black, I gotta be ignorant? Is that what you're really saying to me? And that there are some people out there, I don't know, tell me if you agree. I think there are some people who believe that if you are black, that being black means you have to be ignorant, that being ignorant is the only way to be black, or being broke means you have to be, or they'll compare, they go into like the struggle Olympics where they'll say you didn't have a real black experience because you ain't never been through nothing. And so if you grow up and you say, well, actually, I had, parents that paid the bills and we were fine and I was safe and my parents stayed together and everybody was loved, and they will tell you that you didn't have a real black experience. Has anybody ever noticed that? Like there are literally people who will think that if you are black and you are not going through hell, you are not black enough. You are not really black. And this happens, and I blame a lot of these politicians. I was debating somebody the other day, and they were talking about this rapper Nicki Minaj, who went to the Republican whatever it was, Turning Point USA, and everybody was saying that she's a sellout for doing that and all that. And I said, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I said, but if she was doing that for the Democrats, I doubt you would be saying that about her. Right, because there's plenty of black rappers who will go and they'll go coon out for the Democrats or the Republicans, right? You have rappers on both sides, and I said, and also one thing you got to ask yourself is why is it that when they want to talk to black people, they want to talk to a rapper? Like they don't want to talk to black people, they want to talk to these cartoon characters. Rappers are cartoon characters. That's what they pretty much are. And then I said, did you notice that Megan the Stallion? Do you know what a stallion is? And they said, no. I said, a stallion is an adult uncastrated male horse. It's an uncastrated male horse. So it's not just a horse. It's a horny horse. It's a horny horse, a heart with a hard, you know what, that's ready to go have sex with everything. Hypersexualized horse. So why would you? What does that bother you at all? Like in Nicki Minaj, it's named after a sexual act, Minaj, right? And so I said, isn't that fascinating that when we think about what blackness represents, when other people say, like, okay, I'm gonna go to the black community, who do I pick first? I'm gonna go talk to the one lady who's named after a horse and the other lady who's named after a sex act, and those are going to be our representatives of the black community. All that should be offensive. All that is weird to me. All that is very, very strange. And so there are people who associate who would say, for example, if you don't know who Nicki Minaj is, or if you don't know who Megan the Stallion is, then you're not black enough. If you don't know Cardi B lyrics, you're not black enough. That bothers me a little bit. I don't know if anybody else is bothered by that, but I think that's really, really interesting. I just think that that's a misrepresentation of who you actually are. I really do. It doesn't mean there's not room for rappers and athletes, but it's like the 99.9% of the black community ain't never made a rap album. So why are you not talking to the other 99.9%? Why are you only talking to the 0.1%, who shot people, who've been gang affiliated, who have criminal charges on their record. Like isn't that interesting? And internalizing that is even more dangerous. So I would say what I like about Garvey is he's basically talking about knowledge, that knowledge is power. And so if you ever feel that the black community is not powerful, is not as powerful as we could be, or if you feel like we are victims and we're being victimized by powerful people, then I think part of the question you should ask yourself is why don't we have any power? And we can't have all, it's hard to have all the power, but we can have some of the power, right? And the power is in a book, the power is in knowledge. So why are we not pursuing knowledge with every ounce of energy that we have? Or, I'm gonna tell you, it's more complex than we think. So here's what Garvey also says on page 7 of his book, Message to the People. Marcus Garvey says, use every spare minute you have in reading. If you are going on a journey that would take you an hour, carry something with you to read for that hour until you have reached the place. If you are sitting down waiting for somebody, have something in your pocket to read until the person comes. Don't waste time. Anytime you think you have to waste, you have to waste, put it in reading something. Carry with you a small pocket dictionary and study words while waiting or traveling, or a small pocket volume on some particular subject. Read through at least one book every week. Separate and distinct from your newspapers and journals. I will mean it will mean that at the end of the year you have read roughly 52 different subjects. After 5 years, you have read over 250 books. You may be considered then a well-read man or a well-read woman, and there will be a great difference between you and the person who has not read one book. You will be considered intelligent, and the other person will be considered ignorant. You and that person therefore will be living in two different worlds. One, the world of ignorance, and the other, the world of intelligence. Never forget that intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Intelligence rules the world, ignorance carries the burden. You, 100 years after Garvey, are living in the age of something called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is super intelligence, and you have a community full of people that don't even know that artificial intelligence even exists. They barely know. They barely know. Those individuals are going to be absolutely slaughtered in the next economy. They are not going to have jobs. They're going to be stuck in forms of slavery. The world is going to change around them. They won't even know what happened. They're not reading the headlines that tell you that Amazon just laid off 100,000 people because they replaced them with AI. They're not listening when Microsoft says, "Oh yeah, all of our computer programmers who went to college and got these degrees, we don't need them anymore. AI is now doing our coding for us." They're not paying attention. They're watching whatever their favorite rapper is doing. They're listening to somebody talk about their baby mama on Instagram. They're not paying attention to what's happening in the world. They're ignorant. They're choosing the ignorance because social media provides a tremendous amount of knowledge to everybody who wants it. And there's a reason why, for example, I could be talking as a college professor, and maybe I'll have a few hundred people that'll watch. By the end of the day, it's a few thousand, and I appreciate that very much. But that's not anywhere near. I saw Cardi B go live, and all she did was talk about who her baby daddy was having sex with, and she had 100,000 people live watching the Instagram. 100,000 people live watching. So my question is, at what point does this information improve your life on any level? And when your life is absolute garbage and everything's falling apart around you, you have no one to blame but yourself. Because when people, I'm not talking about just me, I'm talking about anybody. When there are people out here, there are smart people, there are professors, there are doctors, lawyers, all kinds of people. I see so many smart black women that are online sharing all kinds of really powerful knowledge and information about therapy and everything else. The video will get 25 views, 80 views, 150 views. But let some rapper get out here and say something stupid. You'll literally or some goofy comedian. There's so many of these little comedians doing stupid skits like when your homeboy girl look better than your girl and y'all at the club and it'll have 100,000 views and I'm like wow like that video about your homeboy girl, it's really like you really think that's going to help you feed your children. You really feel like that's going to help improve your life. You really think that's going to. I understand why the comedian, he's going to feed his children because he's controlling you, right? He's manipulated you and gotten you to waste time watching his video about whatever, right? But for you, when you turn around and look at your life and then your life is a mess and you say, well, it's because I'm black, well, then they got you. They got you. So Marcus Garvey, I mean, shout out to I love the way this man thinks. I have not read this book before, but just when I'm reading, I'm super impressed because literally I remember thinking similar to that in college. When I was in college, I used to do things that made my black friends make fun of me. You know what I used to do? I used to keep a book with me everywhere I went because I figured that if I was in line at the grocery store, I could read and study while I was in line at the grocery store. I never wasted time. I sat and I calculated, I budgeted my time. I didn't have no money to budget, so I would budget my time because when I was 19, 20 years old, I said time is money. And I would budget 100, I'd say I've got 168 hours this week. How am I going to budget that? Okay, I'm gonna allocate 20 hours to this, 15 hours to that. Like I would budget my time like that. I still do that. I still do that very same thing. My wife doesn't even understand. My wife was giving me the business just now and saying, why are you working on Christmas Eve? I'm like, well, because there's something to do. I can still be festive. I can still hang out with everybody and do the Christmas games and all that. But I'm gonna take an hour and we're gonna focus on reading Marcus Garvey's book because that's what you do when you want to accomplish something. I remember when I was in grad school, and I remember having my dissertation chair tell me a story about, it wasn't my chair, it was my one of my mentors. His name was Dan Black. He's at the University of Chicago now. He's a great economist, a great guy. You know, again, when I talk about like the Hall of Fame of like wonderful white people, he's in there too, right? Him and my dissertation chairman, they're just great people. And so anyway, Dan Black, I remember him telling me one time that there was a guy that they knew that won the Nobel Prize, who was the best economist on the planet. And they said that every year they would have a Christmas party at his house, and he would disappear from during the Christmas party for 2 hours every Christmas. And they found out 20 years later. They said, "What were you doing every time you disappeared at the party?" And they found out he was working during that time. And I heard that at 21 years old, and I said, "Okay, this is what it takes to be the best." Right. And so I'm not a person that says you shouldn't have balance. Sure, you can still have balance. I can still, I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna spend 8 hours with the family. That's a lot of time, right? But you know what? I'm gonna also spend a couple hours with my goals and my dreams. Your dreams are something I think you should take to bed with you every night. Like you should cuddle up with that. You can still be a normal person, do what a lot of regular people do. But here's the reality. Here's another little secret, because I'm reading Garvey's book, and the more I'm reading it, the more I'm understanding what made him so special. Just a little factoid in case you don't know. If you want to be extraordinary in one area, it's going to be really hard for you to just be a regular guy or a regular person. You can't, like, if you're trying to be extraordinarily wealthy, you can't act like broke people. Because if you act like broke people, you'll be broke just like them. And it's okay if you want to fit in and have the same life they have, then that's what you will get. You're going to have to do something different to receive something different. A different output requires a different input. Does that make sense? Right? For young people, if you want to be great at basketball, well, you're gonna have to practice a little bit longer than everybody else. You're gonna People are gonna make fun of you for being obsessed with basketball because you really want to win the championship. Everybody doesn't want to win championships. Maybe winning a championship means leaving a legacy for your family when nobody else in your family ever does it. Well, you're gonna be a little different. You're gonna have to think a little different and be okay with that. Maybe it means making straight A's in college, and all your friends are making C's and D's like my friends did. Well, I had to be a little different. I got made fun of a lot. They would say, "Well, Boyce, why aren't you having no fun? Why aren't you going to the step show?" Well, damn it, because I want to get an A on the test, and I can't get an A and go to the step show at the same time. So I'm choosing to go to the library, right? And nobody understood it. I had to believe in it. I had to commit to it, and it was a little weird. It's a little lonely. It really is a little lonely at the top, if you want to call it that. But you know, my dreams keep me company, and also and when you get to the top, you find other people who get you, who understand, right? So I like Garvey, man. I love the way Garvey's talking. He's like, carry the book with you everywhere you go. Read as much as you can. Read a book a week. I mean, hey, most black people ain't reading a book a week, but this is what this man was. That's why he was great. That's what made him Marcus Garvey. If you ain't hustling at this level, ain't nobody gonna remember you 100 years from now like this man. We're reading this man's book in 2025. He's been dead for 100 years. We're reading his book 100 years later because he was about it, to use Master P's language. He was committed. He was in it with both feet. Okay, so let's keep going. His book is called Message to the People. Let me keep reading. So he says how to read. Use every spare minute you have for reading. If you're going on a journey that would take an hour, carry something with you to read during that hour. He says read at least one book every week, separate and distinct from your newspapers and journals. He says your language being English, you should study the English language thoroughly. To know the English language thoroughly, you ought to be acquainted with Latin. Okay, I don't know no Latin. I mean, I know a little bit, not much. But because most of the English words are of Latin origin. It is also advisable that you know the French language because most of the books that you read in English, in Latin and French, sorry, most of the books that you read in English carry Latin and French phrases and words. There's no use reading a page or a paragraph of a book or even a sentence without understanding it. If the paragraph has foreign words in it, go to the dictionary before you pass over the words. If you don't know the meaning of the words, never pass over a word without knowing its meaning. The dictionary and the books on word building that can be acquired from booksellers will help you greatly. I know a boy who was ambitious to learn. He didn't have the opportunity of an early school education because he had to work 10 hours a day. He was determined to learn, so he took to work with him every day a simplified grammar. He would read and memorize passages and the rules of grammar while at work. After 1 year, he was almost an expert in the grammar of his language. He knew the different parts of speech. He could paraphrase, analyze, and construct sentences. He also took with him a pocket dictionary, and he would write out 25 new words with their meaning every day and study these words and their meanings. After 1 year, he had a speaking vocabulary of more than 3,000 words. He continued this for several years, and when he became a man, he had a vocabulary of over 15,000 words. He became an author because he could write in his language because he had command of the words. What he wrote with was his experiences, and he recorded his experiences in the best words of his language. At the same time, he was not able to write properly. And so he took with him to work what is called a copying book, and he practiced the copying of letters until he was able to write a very good hand. He naturally became acquainted with literature, so he continued to read extensively. When he died, he was one of the greatest scholars the world ever knew. Apply the story to yourself. There's nothing in the world that you want that you cannot have as long as it is possible in nature, and men have achieved it before. The greatest men and women in the world would burn the midnight lamp. That is to say, when their neighbors and household are in bed, they are reading, studying, and thinking. When they rise in the morning, they are always ahead of their neighbors and their household in the thing that they were studying, reading, and thinking of. A daily repetition of that will carry them daily ahead and above their neighbors and household. Practice this rule. It is wise to study a couple of subjects at a time. As for instance, a little geography, a little psychology, a little ethics, a little theology, a little philosophy, a little mathematics, a little science on which sound academic education is built. By doing this week after week, month after month, year after year, you will be so learned in the liberal arts as to be ready and fit for your place in the affairs of the world. If you know what others do not know, they will want to hear you. You will then become invaluable in your community and to your country because men and women will want to hear you and see you everywhere. As stated before, books are one's best companions. Try to get them and keep them. A method of doing so is every time you have 10 cents or 25 cents or a dollar to spend foolishly, either on your friends or yourself, think how much more useful if that 10 or 25 cents or a dollar would be invested in a book and so invest. It may be just the thing you have been looking for to give you a thought by which you may win the heart of the world. The 10 cents, 25 cents, or a dollar, therefore, may turn out to be an investment of worth to the extent of $1 million. Never lend anybody the book that you want. You will never get it back. Never allow anybody to go to your bookshelf in your absence because the very book that you may want most may be taken from the shelf and you may never be able to get that one book back again. Here, the same relatives I got. If you have a library of your own, lock it when you are not at home. Spend most of your time, your spare time in the library. If you have a radio, keep it in your own library and use it exhaustively to listen to lectures, recitals, speeches, and good music. You can learn a lot from the radio. You can be inspired a lot by good music. Good music carries the sentiment of harmony, and you may think many a good thought out of listening to good music. Read a chapter of the Bible every day, Old and New Testaments. The greatest wisdom of the age is to be found in the scriptures. You can always quote from the scriptures. It is the quickest way of winning approval. Whew. All right. All right. Nice to meet you, Marcus Garvey. How about that? I mean, this is what this is what made him into a great man. You know, this is the line of thinking. And I like the fact that he's really kind of giving the blueprint of how he views the world because it helps you understand how great, why he became so great, right? It helps you kind of realize that this is what's necessary for you to get ahead, right? And if you think about this, you compare this to the standards that are set with a lot of our kids in school. You know, our kids are not being taught by people like this. They're not being taught by people who tell them to go hard, push, learn, consume information all the time. And this is the crime. That's the crime. It's sometimes the biggest crime against our children is the curse of low expectations. When you set low expectations for kids, then why would you expect them to ever do anything exceptional, right? So I blame liberals and conservatives for this. I don't know how conservatives feel one way or the other. I'm not a Republican or anything like that, but I know I get tired of hearing people tell me that I ain't supposed to accomplish nothing just because I'm black. Stop giving me excuses and start giving me solutions, right? If you can't give me a solution, then don't talk to me, right? And so I personally think that this Garvey is the guy that all of our children should study. I think there's a reason also. Don't forget, there's a reason why um, most of your kids never learned about Garvey in school. Like, give me a yes if you went through school, public school, and never learned about Garvey in school. Did they never spent like a module like really teaching you like in detail what Garvey taught? Would you agree with that? Would you agree that most children are not exposed to Garvey as children? And why would you not expose them to Garvey? Like what's wrong? What did he do? All he's doing is he's telling the babies to read. He's telling them to read all the time. Get in those books. What's dangerous about that? What's so bad about that? Because I think that they are more comfortable with a black person if it's an ignorant black person. That's what they're comfortable with. They're comfortable with they're not they're comfortable with a black person if they're a weak black person. So if you're weak and you're ignorant and you're broken and you're struggling, then they can come along and pat you on the head like a little puppy and say, "Oh, it's just because you're black. Don't worry. The grown-ups will be doing the important things. You just survive. Let's just make sure you survive a police shooting, you poor little black boy." And I just personally think that that's incredibly insulting. So I think that having standards is critical, and I like Garvey because Garvey didn't play no mess. And we're gonna keep on reading next week. I'm gonna end class a little bit early this week just because I don't want to be a complete jerk to my family for Christmas. So I got to go upstairs, and plus it's the 1 year anniversary of my mother's death, and so this is a heavy day for me. So I gotta just kind of woo-saw my way through the day. So she's in heaven. I know she's with me, but that's on my mind too. So anyway, I want to say thank you guys for hanging out with me. We're gonna be back next week, and we're gonna do this again. If you're not on the text list for our morning financial class, we meet every single day, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. and it's 100% free. You can bring your whole family, bring the whole hood. And if you want to join, if you want to get a reminder when we meet for class, just text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948. And also, don't forget the All Black National Convention is going to happen October 16th that weekend in Jersey City at the Hyatt on the Hudson. So if you want to join us, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. The title of the book is called Message to the People by Marcus Garvey, and it's not a long book. It looks like it's maybe about 140 pages or something like that. And maybe after that we'll figure out another book that we want to read. And also Chanel, I'll leave this Zoom open for a second if you want to grab that link from Chanel to join us for a stock options class. It starts on January 8th. It's called Coin, Certified Options Investing Network. So you can talk to her and ask her questions and hang out with her a little bit. So I'm gonna leave this open for a second. All right. So you guys have a good day. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.